What up, everybody? This is mrthraz, and basically today what I'm going to be doing is giving you a video tutorial on how to map your MIDI controllers to FL Studio. Um, it's going to be a pretty bad tutorial, unfortunately, because, well, one, I'm not a very good tutorial maker, and about the only thing I have to make a video on is my cell phone. So it's it's going to be kind of blurry because this is going to be on YouTube in addition to, being recorded on a 1.3 camera. But I'm hoping that you'll be able to get something out of it, better than me writing it down by seeing me do some of this stuff physically. I plan on redoing this again with a mixture of some video and some video screen captures, and posting that up for everybody to see and have. And I hope that you learn a lot from it, and it'll solve a lot of your problems. So let's get going. Okay, first I'm going to introduce you to some of the equipment that I'm going to use. A lot of you already have this equipment, but I just wanted to let you know what I'm using so that you can see. Okay. The community that I'm talking to specifically, although it's not limited to that community, is going to be Flipside, who had asked me to do this tutorial, and War Beats, which is another community I belong to. And both these communities are very good communities, and if you're watching this and you're not a member of those communities and you're on FL Studio, you need to hurry up and sign up to these two communities, because they teach a lot, they give a lot, and they do a lot. And if you're a newbie, these two communities are probably the best places to learn and expand. Okay. The first thing I would like you to do is take a look at my equipment here. I know it kind of sounds like I'm bragging, but believe me, none of this equipment is anything to brag about, other than I got it cheap, and I'm happy I'm not breaking my pockets. Okay, this is the Korg microcontrol. This is the DM2 digital music mixer from Mixman. It actually is not a MIDI controller, though I do use it that way through a combination of some software that I'll talk about later. And I have the Akai MPD16, which is a MIDI controller. And most people who have FL Studio generally want to map this to their FPC. But, you can do a lot of great things with all of these that you might not have known about. Okay. Now, also I have the Product Keys PC MIDI. Very cheap, very useful, doesn't take up a lot of space. Okay. Now, one of the things I was trying to do when I started this little studio project I have here is I was trying to make a place where people could come and record vocals over beats I had made, and we could send out mixtapes throughout the city. And I quickly found out that you just can't have everyone in your home. And it's unfortunate that, people came to my home and stole from me. So I got the idea that I should be able to be mobile and go to other people's places and record. So I got a laptop. And since I got the laptop, I thought, it's a laptop, I want it to be mobile, I don't want to carry around the Product Keys PC MIDI and the Akai MPD16 everywhere I go. I want to be able to move very fast. So when I got the laptop, I got the microcontrol because it looked like it was, a keyboard and a drum pad in one. And it is, along with some mixer controls for mixing and basic other controls, which I thought was, I thought it was everything. So I went ahead and got it. And I quickly found out that while the Korg microcontroller is set up nicely to be used with programs like Reason and Cubase and Logic and Ableton, FL Studio, while it recognized it and was able to use the keys, it just had a hard time with the pad. And I didn't know how to fix that. So I did a little reading up on it, and I found that it actually came with a program called the Microcontrol Editor Library. And there it is. That's what it looks like. And, you know, as you can see, I have a setup here for FL Studio. I was actually able to change the MIDI messages and put them in such a way that it sent the messages that FL needed to be needed, so that it could be useful for me. Sorry if I'm not verbally very sharp right now. I've been up all night making music. Okay. So, I found that the editor allowed the microcontrol to be very flexible. One of the big problems I had with the microcontrol was that the pads, if I pressed this pad right here, on the FPC, this pad would show up instead of this one. And that really irked my nerves, and I wanted to figure out how to change this. Well, I opened up the Korg, the Korg Microcontrol Editor Librarian, and I was able to do that. And I was able to create my own little setup here for FL Studio and the FPC. As you can see, and I'll show you in just a second, it has a pad bank A and a pad bank B, 1 through 8 for A and 9 through 16 for B, and they correspond bank A, bank B. Well, pad A and pad B, and it's pretty cool. You know, it was pretty cool, but it was set up for Reason at the time, and pad B was the only thing that sent musical MIDI notes. Pad B. Pad A only sent control messages, which I found very frustrating. Okay, so I was able to use the librarian and send the messages I wanted it to send. So I had pad A, and I told pad A I wanted these messages that correspond with the MIDI note messages on the FPC, and pad A and pad B were both able to send the 16 pad MIDI note messages. But if you look at the FPC, you see that the FPC has bank A and bank B, 2 grids of 16 pads. Well, I was able to set up a second what they call here in the editor library a second scene. And in this scene, pad A and pad B are sending MIDI note messages for bank B in the FPC. Okay. Now, if any of you have this controller, you know, and you're using FL Studio and the FPC, I hope that that's helpful to you. But that's not all we're going to talk about. Okay. That's not really the biggest thing that you can do with an editor like this. Perhaps the biggest thing is when you open up FL Studio, you have up here the transport controls. And very few MIDI controllers have the transport controls. You know, transport is play, stop, record. Sometimes loop is there in different stuff, different programs. But in FL Studio, basically you have pattern song, that's one button. Another button is play, another is stop, and one is record. And that's what you have. Now, if your MIDI controller does not send the messages there, you will automatically find out, because you'll be pressing the button that says play, record, stop, and it won't work. Well, with this editor, you can go ahead and you can fix that. You can go ahead and you can send the proper messages. But what are the messages you're saying? Okay. Well, if we go into FL Studio, I'm already in FL Studio. Messed up there. If we go into the FL Studio folder, and for many of you it'll be the same way unless you've done something different than most people, FL Studio 7, and you'll see that we have MIDI control. Not MIDI control. It's going to be system, hardware specific, and if you go to PCR FL Studio, PROM list FL Studio HTML. Okay, this will open up for you in your browser, and this has the MIDI messages for your transport controls right here, and these are the MIDI messages that you need. Here's the transport jog wheel, and you see that FL Studio wants that control message. The MIDI message it wants is 119. It wants it in the range of 0 to 127. And it wants it on channel 16. It wants it on port 1. Now, that really doesn't matter because FL Studio is going to send everything through port 1. Everything is going to go through port 1. It does that because FL Studio internally does not actually use MIDI messages. It uses something else entirely. I believe it's proprietary hardware language that they've created, and basically it talks to itself in that language, and when MIDI messages come in, it translates those messages to its own language. I believe I'm not sure, but I believe that's the reason why the piano roll works so well, and those of us who can't play very well are able to use FL Studio in such a easy fashion. But when it comes to hardware recognition, that's where it falls down, because so much stuff wants to send things on specific channels, specific ports, and FL Studio is going to route everything through port 1. It's just about everything on channel 16. Okay. Now, if you look, there's some messages here, and if you look there, I'm sorry, it's the phone I'm recording on, so some of this is going to be, the volume is going to go down as I move the phone away from me. Please bear with me. I might be repeating myself a lot. Okay. As you see, L1, L2, and L3, L1, L2, and L3, they have the MIDI messages of FC, FA, and FB. FC, FA, and FB. And those messages are actually stop, play, no, excuse me. Yes, stop, play, and continue. Those three messages. Those are what those messages are. And those messages are the messages that FL Studio wants to be able to control the transport buttons. That's what those are for. Okay? And so, say you wanted to be able to control transport on the chord, on FL Studio with the chord. Well, we can go over here and we can make another scene, and we can go to pad A, and pad A, pad 1, and you see it sending a message on channel 11. I have it set up to send a message on channel 11 here. Doesn't matter. It's all going to go to channel 1 anyway. And you see it's set up to send a note message. And since there was no assignment, I'm going to say no assignment. I mean, excuse me. Since it's a CC message, I'm going to send a CC message. And the CC message, the control message, is going to be, what did I say? FC, FA, and FB? I'm going to say FA. Okay? There's FA. All right. And now all I have to do is save it and transmit it to my keyboard and close it. And when I go to FL Studio, you can see that the transport is moving. Okay? All right. So you'll be able to send those messages, and the messages that FL Studio is asking for, and you'll be able to control a lot of your functions from your keyboard instead of having to use your mouse the way you envisioned that you would when you bought the keyboard. I don't know why this information isn't like widely boasted by FL Studio, and why they don't just tell everybody, listen, this is what you need to do, but that is what you need to do. Okay. So now that we got that done, there's some things you might need to know. One of the things is you will see that not all of these messages are CC messages. Some of these messages are NRPN messages. And NR, I believe, stands for, I forget what exactly the letters stand for, but basically what it means is it's not standard. These MIDI messages are not standard, is what it's telling you. And it's that particular company decided that that was the message it was going to send. And those messages are not across the board. Everybody doesn't use them. This particular company decided to use them with this piece of hardware or software. Okay, this is a non-standard MIDI message. And for transport back, it's NRPN 000000. Okay, and transport forward is NRPN. It's 010001. I don't know how to add those particular MIDI messages into an editor. I really don't. I've been asking around. I've been searching. Hopefully I'll find it. And when I do find those messages, I will relay that information on to you guys. But as of right now, I don't have those messages. I don't know how to send those messages. Every program doesn't do it. I mean, if you look here, we have the Akai Professional MI MPD16 utility, okay? And I can send new MIDI messages through this. And I can have my MPD16 sending CC messages instead of MIDI note messages to my DAW. And a lot of people do. But I don't know how to get those NRPN numbers in there. And for those of you that get frustrated about that and you want that functionality and you just can't get it, I have a solution for you. It's a temporary solution. It's not the best, but it helps out a lot. Okay, so basically what you want to do is you want to go to Boom's MIDI translator. go ahead to www.boom.com, BOME.com, and download Boom's MIDI translator. He has a free version, and it has a nag screen that's going to ask you to please, register the doggone thing, and it won't let you do anything with it for 10 seconds once it starts. After those 10 seconds is up, it works. If you want to get rid of that nag screen, the best thing to do is either send him some money or send him a postcard. He likes postcards. If you send him a postcard with your email address on it, he will send you a challenge code that will take away the nag screen. Also, if you like what he does, go ahead and buy it. You can go ahead and buy the Pro version. That's Boom MIDI Translator Pro, and it does a lot more than the free version. Okay? Now, I first ran into this when I decided that I wasn't going to spend a whole bunch of money on some turntables. I bought the Ion USB turntable, and it's a direct drive. It's a belt-driven turntable. It's USB, so I use it for my sampling. But I can't scratch on it, and I don't want to scratch on it because I don't want to destroy it. But I found, I found through Warbeats, there's a guy who scratches with FL Studio and the Fruity Scratcher. And he does, there's a lot of things you could do, especially if you got a Wacom tablet. You can scratch as if it's, you're really there. But I wanted more than it just to sound like I was scratching. I wanted it to feel like I was scratching. So I looked around for a bunch of MIDI controllers that would help and, in that endeavor and be cheap. And the best one I found that fit both of those categories was the DM2 digital music mixer. This is not actually a MIDI controller. But a guy by the name of Corporation, he went and made a MIDI driver for it. And you can use it as a MIDI controller in Tractor. And they have some great setups in Tractor where you could use it, and it sounds just like it sounds just like you're scratching on vinyl. You're mixing just like you're mixing with vinyl with it. You can jog stuff forward, jog it back, scratch it, fade in and out. You can do everything just like as if you had a couple of turntables there. In my opinion, I'm no DJ, and I thought that I could map it out for FL Studio, and I found that it really wasn't gonna happen. As much as I wanted to, it really wasn't gonna happen. I wasn't gonna be able to scratch with it. But I did map all the buttons so that FL Studio worked more to my liking. One of the things that always frustrates me about FL Studio is, you look at it and you're like, oh, I need the mixer window. So then you go down and you find your mouse, if your mouse is good, or if you're like me and you got a Wacom tablet, you go and you find your pen and hope you haven't misplaced your pen, and then you go and you hunt hunting for, there it is, and there's the mixer. Okay. All right. And by the time you've done that, you've really forgotten what it is you wanted to do. So what I did was I took what I wound up doing was trying to learn the hotkeys. And I don't know about you, but I mix a lot at night, and I create a lot at night. And with the lights off in here, I can hardly see sometimes to find my mouse. And sometimes, even if I'm using the hotkeys, I go down and I'm looking for the key that will open up the mixer, and I hope I found the right one. No, that wasn't it. That was the browser. No, that was the piano roll. No, that's something else entirely. It became a problem for me. So I started, like I said, I started mapping out the Mixman to FL Studio. And what you can do is, if you know what the hotkeys are, then you can do something very special. I went ahead and I got Boom's MIDI translator, and I was able to tell it, hey, incoming messages, incoming MIDI messages, I want you to capture it. And I would say, okay, the incoming MIDI message, and I would capture the incoming MIDI message, and I would press the button that I wanted to be the incoming MIDI message. I'd press that button, it would capture it, okay, and then I would go outgoing. The outgoing MIDI message, I don't want it to be a MIDI message, I want it to be a keystroke. And I made the keystroke F5. And then I applied it, and now when I press that button in FL Studio, F5 pops up, and what is F5? F5 is my playlist. So at night, these big bright buttons, I can still see, and even if I can't see them, I can just move my fingers along them and I can find the right button. And I've done it for all of these buttons here on this thing. So when I've done creating a bunch of patterns, as you can see, I have these buttons right here. If you look, you'll see that button goes down, the one next to it goes up. So if I'm in the piano roll, I could just go down to the channel I want to go to. You know, no muss, no fuss, no mouse. You know, that's the most important thing. And I can go to like live mode here. And after I've got all of my patterns made the way I want them, I can just go and press these buttons and turn off and on the different patterns. And audition the patterns like I was conducting. And I find that saves a lot of time. I can do a freestyle and figure out what sounds best. And then I can start painting in the pattern on the playlist. And you can do this with, you know, any MIDI controller that has a whole bunch of buttons, and you don't know what the MIDI message is. You don't know what the MIDI message is, but you know what the hotkey message is. Then you can go ahead and get the MIDI translator, and the MIDI translator will intercept those MIDI messages, translate them to hotkeys, and you will be able to use your controller the way you expect to. I hope this hasn't been too confusing. Like I said, I've been up all night, and so, you know, it's not the best. I plan on redoing this so that everything is a lot clearer. Everything is a lot more clear, and you'll be able to understand it better. One thing I should tell you before I leave Um, Boom's MIDI translator, it needs MIDI yoke. And whatever MIDI controller you have it hooked up to, MIDI in should be like MIDI yoke 1, and MIDI out should be MIDI yoke 2. So when you go into FL Studio, if you want that controller to be recognized, you want MIDI yoke in T2 active. That's the one you want active inside FL Studio. And, you'll be all right. Also, with the MIDI translator, you'll want MIDI through activated. Okay? And you could save a whole bunch of presets and, keep them there for you to use later. MIDI through activated will, allow you to use the other things on your keyboard that you may want to use. So, I hope this has been helpful. Get back to me and tell me any of your ideas, especially if anybody knows how to send these odd, non-standard messages for FL Studio, the NRPN MIDI messages. I don't know how to send them. I really wish I did. I want to know, but I do not know how to send them. So if anybody knows, let me know, and I'll continue trying to figure them out. But I don't know what they are, and I don't know how to send them. If I figure them out, I'll share it with you. If you figure it out before me, please share it with me, and I will try to get that information out to everybody as best I can. Thank you for listening to this rambling message that I've made, but I hope it's clear. You can reach me at mrthraz, that's mrthraz, @gmail.com. And if you have any questions, soon I'll be redoing this so that it's a lot more clear and verbally I'm more sharp. But I just want to get that information out there for everybody so that they can start using their controllers in FL Studio the way they intended them to be used when they were bought. And a few people at the Flipside forum wanted me to post this information, and I thought the quickest way to get it out to them would be to put it on video instead of trying to write it all down, and because I'm just too sleepy to do it right now. So I'll redo this and send a better version, but for right now I'm sending this out. And I hope it's helpful. Thank you very much. You guys have a good day.